today. Thank you so much for joining us. We welcome you to Her Story. 4 phenomenal trailblazers share their incredible journeys. My name is Deana Wright. I am Diversity and Inclusion Manager at Newbridge, Madison. We are a local nonprofit serving older adults in Dane County.
All right.
And as most of you probably know, this program is a collaboration between Newbridge and Fitchburg Senior Center. Before we get going, I'd really like to recognize the person who brought the two organizations together, right? Because of her, we would not be here if it weren't for her. We are celebrating Women's History Month with a panel of extraordinary local women, and this celebration was the brainchild of longtime Fitchburg resident and community leader, Miss Janice Hughes. Stand up. Okay, I have a poem to read. I'm sure everybody is familiar with Miss Maya Angelou. Woo-hoo. Well, what Miss Maya Angelou says is, pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. It's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman. That's me. Maya Angelou. So there are undoubtedly many phenomenal women in this room today, including in our audience. But today is about the 4 women who grace our stage as panelists. Each is a woman phenomenally. Each is a phenomenal woman. Margarita Avila, all the way on the end, moved to Madison at 14 from Durango, Mexico, and she is the Director of Workforce Development at the Latino Academy of Workforce Development. Next, we have Frances Huntley Cooper. Longtime Fitchburg resident, and she was the very first black person elected as mayor in Wisconsin back in 1991. Seated next to Frances, Gloria Reyes. Gloria was the first Latino to serve as president of the Madison School Board. And on the end, Pia Kinney-James. Pia was the first black female to be hired by the Madison Police Department in 1975. And if you were around like I was, I remember the big afro. Well, I encourage you to take a little bit of time after today's program to read about each panelist and their bio in our program booklet. You will find that each of these amazing women have a plethora of achievements and accomplishments and are indeed worthy of being deemed phenomenal women and trailblazers. Just a few housekeeping announcements. Please turn off your cell phones. Don't want to have any disruptions as we are speaking with our panelists, and keep your talking, if you can, during the panel discussion to a minimum. Feel free to exit the room if you need to go to the restrooms. They are right out and to the left here. And also feel free to grab some refreshments during the conversation. It's fine. Get up, but just be quiet. But you can certainly go back and grab a sandwich or a cupcake or a veggie cup. We ask that you allow all attendees to get a first plate before getting seconds. 1 sandwich, 1 veggie cup, and 1 cupcake, please. And we ask that you allow, we're going to allow a little bit of time at the end where you'll be able to ask some questions during our Q&A. So while you're listening to their answers during the conversation, please think about questions that you'd like to pose to the panel or to an individual panelist, okay? All right, let's get going here. If you're familiar with publicist Rob Shuter's new book, The 4-Word Answer, he says that Having worked with successful and extraordinary clients across the globe, and having the privilege of having a front row seat to the most successful people in the world, he has found that they all know exactly who they are in just 4 words.
Oh, wow.
Using 4 words. Who are you? Using 4 different words. Pia?
You would pick me first. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I'm a great-grandmother. And I'm a former police officer.
Gloria?
I am a mother. I am a daughter. And I am a public servant. I am resilient.
And Francis?
I'm a phenomenal woman, a traveler, a family woman, and social worker background.
Okay. Social workers in the house, huh? And Margarita?
I am a young Latina community builder, passionate about education, and a positive woman.
Nice. All right, we're going to start with you, Margarita, on this one. Is there a guiding mantra or principle that you kind of tell yourself on a daily basis or every so often?
Oh, I think I have several, but I think the one that always, every morning when I think about, having a hard day or trying to, some of those days that you start thinking like, thinking negative about your date, and I think I always pray when something happened like that, but I always think about my mom. She's been a wonderful mentor to me, wonderful mother, and she never gets up. She never in her life will say, I am tired. So to me, she does so much, and to me, to be complaining to her level and to other things that she does for her family, her community, her business, I just, I cannot say it I'm tired because she never does. And she never complains. She's always very positive. So I always think about my mom when I'm having a hard day, hard time.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Francis? Any mantra that you go by?
What I'd like to go by, don't go by. Okay. What I'd like to go by is just to relax and rest.
Yes.
And as a woman, it's been very hard for me over these 50 plus years I've been involved in the community. And it would be nice if I could put my health first, focus on me, because that's what we women don't do well. We always want to take care of everybody else. And what I realize is that as I've been pushed to step back, and I've had some conversation with Janice on the side, as I push back to step back, I get too relaxed, and so I know that's why I've always been pushing myself to set an agenda to try to achieve that every day. And I was late today because I was taking care of other people and other things. Okay. And I would say who inspires me to keep moving on when I'm about ready to give up is two people, or two groups of people. One is my grandchildren, because I want to be around for them longer. And then the second is for my sorority sisters, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. These women are just amazing. Maya Angelou was an AKA.
Yep.
Our Vice President of the United States is an AKA. But when I listen to their stories internally, when we go to conferences and meetings and you meet these amazing women outside of Dane County, you get inspired. You think, I think I'm doing something. No, I'm not doing anything, because these women are amazing. So that's what keeps my inspiration and support going forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Gloria?
Yeah, she points at me with support because she gives me a lot of support. And so, I admire both of these women just beside me, amazing role models, and, have opened so many doors for us. And so I think my principle is really, we all go experience downs in our lives, and, it's the ability to get back up, right? My dad always said, you're going to get kicked down, but like cry it out, do what you need to do, but get back up, get back up. And that's actually my whole life story. And so I keep getting kicked down. When things are going wrong, I never give up. You'll see me cry for a little while or disappear for a day or two, but then I just keep getting back up. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Am I next?
Mm-hmm.
So each morning I get up, now that I'm a senior citizen, I say, get up, get moving, think positive, and I always have had support from my parents and other ancestors and my children. So that's my motivation to keep going. And since I love my community, I want that to go better. I want people to be treated fairly. When I sign my email, it's peace and justice for all, and that's what I truly believe in.
They may be in the back room. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just looking, and I made name tabs for everyone, and I don't see them there. The table tents. So if somebody could grab those, just so that people know who's talking, if I don't call on them, and so that our viewing audience can know as well, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so you kind of answered this to a degree. We're going to start this, Frances. Who do you look up to? Who are some of your female role models?
I'll start with my grandmother. My grandmother raised me, even though my mother was alive, and my grandmother lived to 104,
Wow.
healthy, and she was focused, and we were in church every day, every Sunday, all day long. And then throughout the week, she did community service. And it was just helping others. And I would say with grandmother, because when she would have been 52 when I was born. So a lot of us don't even have grandmothers that live that long. And I just I looked at her because she was always setting a role model. She was always helping others. She was helping the community. She loved to cook, great cook, worked in the cafeteria after she retired as a domestic. So I would say that my grandmother is the number one person who inspired me and raised me, and that would be the person I'd say most. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Okay, next.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I mentioned, both of these women next to me,
Yeah.
As a aspired as a young kid to be a police officer, and then growing up to see Miss Officer Pia Kinney-James out there. It's so important to see, for young kids to see a reflection of themselves in these roles, and that really gave me her and Rosa Aguilu, who was on the force at the time, and then Frances Huntley Cooper, right, as the first, African American mayor of Wisconsin, right, for a young person to see that is so important. And so, my mom, of course, is so strong and resilient, and I wouldn't be standing here or sitting here in front of you all if it were not for her. So, yep.
And I look, excuse me, I look up to several women in my life, as well as my father. My mother, who was an orphan and in foster care, went through a lot of turmoil in the state of Wisconsin, but she believed in holding the family together no matter what. That included her other siblings who were also in other foster homes within Wisconsin. My grandmother, who raised 8 children, traveled across the country to come here, and for the livelihood of her family, as well as trying to get my uncles and aunts into school, and that's years and years ago. Within the Madison Police Department, I look up to Moreland Frankie, who was very instrumental in recruiting people of color and women, and then supporting us. And then Mary Rita Ostrander, who was a detective supervisor. And prior to that, both of them were police women, not police officers. They struggled. They gave me a path. They came on when women were required to be single if they were going to be a police woman. They had to have a college education. They did their own police reports, so they had to type, where the men got stenographers. The women had to wear skirts and pumps and nylons, if you guys remember what nylons were about. They were not issued a weapon. They were issued a pair of handcuffs and a bus pass. And the bus pass was to go and do their interviews for the female or juvenile offenders that they had contact with. When they made an arrest, they had to call for a male driver squad, because they weren't allowed to drive squad cars. And it would look ridiculous to take their prisoner on the city bus. If, in fact, they got married and or became pregnant, they were fired. And if they wanted to come back to the police department, they had to wait until there was an opening and reapply like they did in the first place. Wow. So those were the struggles that they went through, actually. And by the time I came along, I was the second class of females that were in uniform. And as I said, the other police women had to wear plain clothes. The chief at the time, prior to me, basically said women cannot carry guns, they can't hit the broadside of a barn, and I will never hire a N-word. So when chief, and I know I'm running my mouth, but this is my background. This is why I look up to these people, because they made a path for me and all of us in law enforcement. Women are phenomenal. These women, and there were a handful of others as well, but those two women are the ones in my profession that I had to look up to and bow down to them now. They're both deceased, but we have established the Wisconsin Association of Women Police organization where we have scholarships in honor of those two names for other women who struggled through law enforcement and are still struggling through law enforcement. I went to a conference last month, and there was a young lady who has a small department, but she's the only female, and she is actually going through some of the same things I went through in the 70s. Yeah. That is pathetic. So we offer mentorship, we offer networking support, and not education, what am I trying to say? Training, so that we can continue to be good officers within our entire state.
Thank you
and
for
I
that.
think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that. That was very interesting information that I'm sure many of us didn't know. You know, that systemic oppression is real, and that systemic oppression is still apparent, right? And those power structures. So on that note, how have you, and how can women in the audience in general, navigate power structures? Gloria, can you take that question?
Yeah. God, I've navigated power structures all my life. Starting in my career with the police department. How to navigate? I think it's really important for women to have mentors, to lean on other women who have been there, and that's how I got through a lot of it. But also never forget who you are and what you bring into the job or the situation, and keep pushing the power structure, right? I think I've never just stayed back and let it happen to me, right? And you don't do it alone, right? Do it with the other people, women around you. And push those power structures, because that's what Pia did. That's what other people have done they push the power structures for those who are coming after them. And that's what I've done all my entire career is lift young women up, lean on those who have been there and who have pushed the power structures, and men too, right? I mean, I've had men who understand those power structures and who've really helped pave the way as well, and lean on those people, but don't just sit back and let it happen, and really push through and bring in other people along is what I would say.
Okay. It's funny you'd say that. I was told that I was hired at my current position because I'm a disruptor, right? So to disrupt those power structures is something that we are called on to do as women and as women of color. Margarita, what about you? How do you navigate power structures?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is it's okay to break their rules. And I'm not referring to the lot rules, but sometimes we come to different spaces where we're the only ones and we don't see anyone else that we can relate. So when we get to those places, ask questions. As Gloria said, ask others for advice, look for mentors. And sometimes we have to ask people to be our mentors, or just ask, how do you got there? I had asked so many people, how do you got there? Can you explain me your journey? Where do I need to go? Do I need to get more education? Who do I need to ask? Who do I need to be talking, or who do I need to be following so that I can learn? How can I get there? So I think, it's very important that we're not alone in this journey. Although sometimes we see ourselves lonely, we had, for those that believe in God, we can pray, it's good to just think, but also at the same time, don't be by yourself. Don't just close yourself and think that you're alone, because there's a lot of people. You will be surprised, once you reach out to others in the community, how they are probably ready to help you. As already, there's so many people, mentors that had helped me along my journey as well. So, and I try to do the same for the other generations too. So I think, just ask questions, look for mentors, and do your research too.
Okay. Anyone else want to answer that question before we go on to the next? Francis, what has been, speaking of these power struggles and structures, what has been the most significant barrier in your career?
That's a big one. That's a big one. Mainly people who will tell you that you cannot achieve, you cannot, whatever you want to do, they're not there to support you, the naysayers. As you heard me talk about my grandmother being a role model, basically I grew up in a household where basically it was women. So we were the ones. I didn't have a father present. I didn't have any brothers. So my upbringing was women. And my mother is really short. So you know what they say about short women. They ain't gonna take no mess from anyone. So, and she was pretty feisty. My mom was pretty feisty too. So, but I think that, those were those are the people that would say, you can do and be whatever it is you want to be. And I just wanted to add to this question, the last question you asked, because most people look at me and they see me and they only think of me as the first black mayor. And what people in this audience and most people don't know is because I've been in this community 50 years, 30 years, 40 years. And back there, Pia and I, when Pia was a police officer, I was a social worker. And Dane County was where I started. And what people don't realize is that there was a lot of discrimination that was going on back there at the time. There was Eugene Parks out there fighting for people. And a lot of people I noticed would say things, they promise you things, but they didn't deliver. And again, when I moved here to Wisconsin from North Carolina, I was used to just doing and going and being where I needed to be because someone told me to do that. So I was considered reserved. And most people who know me say, you're not reserved. But at the time, I was considered that. And then when I moved here, I didn't see all that activity. People didn't seem to be activists. You know, we mumbled behind closed doors, but we took no action. And that wasn't what I saw when I was growing up. So when I moved here and got more involved, and that's what helped me to push the envelope. And I think social work helped me to become comfortable running for public office. But the lawsuits was something that I was involved in because of the discrimination back in the day, and they weren't promoting me. And I'll be real quick with this one, but I had applied for jobs over and over and over in Dane County. I would rank number 1, didn't get the jobs. You know, number 2, there might be 3 positions, didn't get the job, and so forth. And that's how it went for 10 times. And, you know, I know people were laughing behind my back, you know, and there she goes again applying for a job. She's not going to get it. You know, I don't know why she does that. But my background and my principles was, you know, that if you're going to help people, it's nice to be a social worker with a caseload of 30 families. But if you can be at the table where you set policy, that's more influential than the knocking on the doors with a few people. So that was always in the back of my mind, and I just could not give up within the county. And I ended up being part of a class action suit because my case was so strong. And there were other African Americans, brown and black folks who were struggling back in the day, and they had lawsuits pending, but mine brought it to a class action. So there was some action. I wasn't looking for money. I was the principle of it, you all, that made me wanting to stay strong. And that's what I did, and eventually I got promoted and never had any problems in a supervisory or management position. But that was only because of my background and the support I had growing up in the South in a HBCU school, not coming up here to UW-Madison where I got 2 master's degrees. It's not the same. And I've always had support of the black community and felt really like I could do it. And then the greater Fitchburg community, the Dane County has really been good to me, but it's because I've met some amazing people from all backgrounds and cultures. But I'm one who will say what I have to say, and I feel really privileged to have so many people support me and believe in me, and that I was able to, you know, run and get elected alderperson and then mayor. So those are it's a little quick overview of the challenges that I went through and to help me get to where I am today.
Much appreciated, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Gloria, and this is kind of to piggyback on what you were saying, Francis, how has race impacted your journey?
I think every step of the way, in many different aspects of my life. I think, you know, being a woman of color, a Latina, people really underestimate you, like right when you walk in, right? And so you are battling this sort of perception of who you are supposed to be and how you're supposed to act. And so, you know, even growing up, people said I couldn't be a law enforcement officer because I was a woman and there's no Latinas on the police force. And so it's just this constant having to prove that and be better, right, and work harder. And so I've had, you know, college professors who were Latina who are like, you come in late for anything, because when you walk in late, you're going to be viewed and perceived a certain way. And I'm like, well, other students walk in late, and they're like, no, other students, you're not a white student. You're not. If you come in, they're going to perceive you as lazy, and perceive you in many different ways. And so, really, I was taught early on that you're not late, you're on time. You have to be better. On the police department, it was always battling the system of racism that exists within the process and the systems. And as deputy mayor in government, and now in the political environment, it is constantly fighting. Even though you are the most, as Francis said, the most qualified candidate, right? If I was a white man, it would be perceived differently, and so it plays a role in many of our lives, and we've experienced it. And you just have to fight through that and make our workplaces, our environments better for the generations who are coming after you. So yeah.
And we certainly know that there is a intersectionality, if you will, between race, gender, perhaps age. So has gender affected you, Pia, in terms of your advancement or opportunities over the years?
Most definitely. First, let me qualify this, because my career was very, very good. It was bad, and it was ugly. And walking into the first exam to qualify as a new hired person, I wanted to get on the department. My physical agility test was the first time I really heard the negative stuff about not only being a female, but being black. You can't make it, you're not strong enough, we don't have your kind here. And I heard that stuff. And it was stuff that made me want to turn around and quit. And so when I was recruited by another black male officer, actually my sister was recruited, and then I kind of listened. And at the time I was recently divorced and 2 kids, and I thought, the Madison Police Department is trying to hire women and people of color. Let me jump in on the opportunity. So my sister and I started out together, and it was negative, negative, negative. Why did I stay? Well, I had 2 kids to take care of. I had my community I was worried about, and I had my self-respect I wanted. And I wanted a paycheck. I didn't want to have to go on welfare. So the gender part of it, in my career, I never could, I shouldn't say I never. I almost had to think or hear what was said to say, is this race related? Is this because I'm a female? Is this because I'm a recruit, a rookie? I never really knew unless they said something so overt that I would know it was sexist or racist and et cetera. So on the police department itself, and let me qualify this too, we have one of the best police departments in the nation, which is scary because we have work to do in Madison, Wisconsin as well. And there's other departments across the United States that model after us as far as trying to work within the community relationships, and just working toward a better future for all. However, in 1975, that really didn't exist. And so getting on the department was hard enough, but then once I was there, again, there were blocks. The men wouldn't talk to us. Sometimes they wouldn't back us up. If there were good men that would help us out, a lot of times they did it solo. They didn't want their buddies to know they were helping us out. That let us know, as women, that there were kind human beings who was in this atmosphere and culture that they were afraid of themselves, but yet they wanted to be good people too. And that let me know there were good people as well as some of the bad ones. Our community, there were times I'd go to a call, and usually in the wealthier areas, and especially older white females would say, we don't allow your kind in the house. I had a good supervisor, white sergeant, who said, if they want a cop, they got a cop. Otherwise, they can take care of their own business. That was support I didn't expect, and we often didn't get. So it was gender and race related. And then, you know, just like any fraternity or sorority, you have the little hazing stuff going on as a newbie, and some of the stuff that happened to us, and me in particular, we didn't know if it was a joke or if they were being serious. So it is often about gender, but it's also about a lot of other things.
Margarita, it's unfortunate that many of those things still exist, and this is 2023. Yes. But what words of encouragement and motivation can you provide and offer to women in the audience who may be dealing with systemic racism, white privilege, white fragility? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I recall this time when, so I went to college in Milwaukee. I went to a very small private school, so it's Wisconsin Lutheran College. So other than one thing that you didn't add is religion. Mm-hmm. So I didn't fit within the system of the school. And the school is still very small, but back then, 10 years, it was very small. So other than me being Latina, having an accent, a woman, I was not Lutheran WELS. So I didn't fit within the system there. So I navigated the system. I struggled a lot for the first 2 years, trying to fit, trying to be like, oh, here's me, Latino, trying to change my accent. So it was not even me. I was not even the authentic student because I couldn't be myself. So what I did is I went out in the community. I found out my own mentors. I, tried to search for events, networking events, trying to join other organizations in the community in Milwaukee. And I did it on my own because no one else provided those resources to me. So now what I have done, because I know it's a struggle and there's still many places where we had to face discrimination and go through those processes. So I had joined different boards. I make sure there's only so much that I can do by myself, right? But every time I see Latinas or minorities, I try to make sure that, ask them, are you okay? How's the school going? So try to provide resources, even if it's one person at a time. I know we're not going to change the world, but because of what I had faced in the past, I want to make sure that hopefully, little by little, we're still changing the system. I know it's probably going to take years because 1975, I wasn't even born. So it's very sad to hear the stories that you guys are sharing, and the same stories that we're still facing, the ones that I had to face. So never give up. Once again, find support. Go and try. If no one is there by your side, go and try to find someone. I think a lot of the opportunities and internships that I also was able to take advantage of, it was because I did it on my own. I found out online. I remember one time there was this professor, I got into an internship with ESPN Radio in Milwaukee. Then I said, when I went to him so he can sign the paper, he said, are you driving to Chicago for this? And I go, no, they're here in Milwaukee. So he kind of laughed, he was kind of laughing about the fact that I got an internship there. But because of me, now they have a great partnership with the radio. So, just those opportunities that sometimes we just had to do it on our own if no one is there holding our hands.
Thank you. Francis, can you answer that question? What kind of encouragement or words of wisdom or motivation would you give folks in the audience who are dealing with some of those things in the workplace?
I would say definitely don't shy away from it. Talk to others, and you're not going to always get the support, but you might find out that there's others experiencing what you are experiencing. Some of us, like me, are outspoken, and some of us that are going through the same thing won't say a word. They may talk to you if they feel comfortable, and then you'll feel supported that you're not the only one that's experiencing that. But there's what I've noticed in the Dane County since I've been living here for years, there's a lot of people who just won't say anything. And as a matter of fact, I've felt, because I'm so outspoken, that the people will come and talk to me, and then I'll take on their issue. I'll say, no, that shouldn't happen, and and I'm doing it without even thinking. But not everyone wants to stand up and fight for, or even put themselves out there. They don't want to be labeled, because you get labeled as the troublemaker. No one wants to be around you publicly. But on the side, these people are talking to you, So it's really hard in Dane County to be to get the support all the time that I think you need. And people will be in positions, and you think, oh, there's another sister or brother that looks like me. they got my back. Not necessarily.
Right? Yep.
Not necessarily. And I've tried because I come from a background where I've been around diversity, and I've seen people successful and not successful, but I want to try to do the best I can to help others and share my experiences. There's nothing I've gone through that I don't want to share with other people to help them move up the ladder. And hopefully not make the mistakes that I made, because you need to talk that through. And I had a conversation when my daughter was here in March, early March, and about applying for jobs, moving up, that kind of thing. And her personality is so much different than her mother's. But you need to be there, because there are different people that will come to the table differently, and that's okay. To me, it's okay to have diversity. There are people who talk out, talk up, speak up, and there are people who are quiet, who may not say anything publicly, but will let you know on the side what they think. And that's okay too, because we need to have a diversity of folks in different places, but we need to also be able to support each other. And I think that the hardest part is knowing who you can trust. Who you can go to that really has your back. And when I think about my challenges early on in my career, and I mentioned Eugene Parks and Oscar Shade, and all these people have gone now. Chuck Matthews was the affirmative action officer way back in the day for the county. There are people who were, I felt, trying to make a difference and trying to support us, and they stood up, but you didn't always see that. So I think it's, don't give up, keep on talking. Just like they say, if you get abused, you keep talking to you, somebody listens. You do the same when you feel you're discriminated, when you feel you're mistreated. Just continue to speak up, and someone will come to your rescue and hear your story and hopefully support you.
Okay. Anyone else wanted to answer that before we go on to the next question?
I mean, I guess I would say really lean in and be courageous, and rather than just accepting and being okay. I mean, I've seen many people in the workforce who are just, they're either complicit or they're just sort of, hey, this is my 8 to 4 job, and then I'm done, and they're frustrated. But really leaning in and being courageous to make change within the environment that you're in. I mean, I can talk about an example with Amigos en Azul, Friends in Blue. It was a program that I started building trust and relationships between our Latino community and the Madison Police Department. And that was a big system change. And so what I really leaned on, I had to step away because of politics and things that were going on. But during this whole time, I relied on the community. When you rely and lean on a community that is invested and who is served by this particular program or anything you establish, they're going to come back and advocate for it. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as I stepped away, things started falling apart, and we had a community that was really invested and felt supported and felt that this was so important that they stepped in for me and continued to make that change. And so you have to be courageous and lean in and not accept the status quo.
I'd also like to say I relied on prayer. I prayed all the time. Bad situations. There was a time I was laying out in the middle of the field at a barricaded man with a shotgun pointing at us, and I literally laid in the field and prayed. I not only prayed to get through that, but I also said, do I really want this job? You have to know what you're going into. You have to rely on people who have something similar. Sometimes when you're the only one or the first, you may not have that, but there's always somebody in your life. I counted on my friends, the friends that stayed with me, that didn't shy away because I was a police officer and into their business. I'll give you an example of a community. As a foot patrol officer, we had to dedicate 3 years to walk a beat. And my beat was long, and we worked basically 12 noon till 8, and we finally got bicycles, but we walked. We walked through the community. And they thought we were a police state. Oh, what are you in here watching us and spying on us and blah, 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 blah. And so I had to develop a rapport with people who didn't like police. I didn't like police. So, I grew up not liking police, not trusting. They did things differently to my community than they did in the little book that said, police officers are your friend. And it's like, well, they're not a friend of ours, so who are they a friend to? Instead of saying, this is your license, this is how you cross the street, let's put this horn on your bicycle. We were asked, where'd you steal the bike from? So I saw something different in that even as a kid. And for those of you who know me, I was a shy, naive child. So me speaking up was very unheard of. But I did say to my parents one time, I'm going to go down to that police department and tell them how to treat people. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And my first volunteer thing was into the safety patrol system in the 7th and 8th grade. I stepped out of my comfort zone to work in the community with the students that I went to school with. You have to take those barriers and make it work for you and then whoever you're trying to help out. It's hard. Again, when I talk about praying, I prayed a lot to get out of things, to get through things, and I talked to the people who would listen to me, including my parents. As a police officer, Gloria will tell you, there are things that go on we can't talk about. We can't talk to the public or someone to get it off your chest. And sometimes even counselors. There's some things we just can't talk about, especially if it's a hot case and hasn't gone to court yet. So where do you put that? My neighborhood, they finally trusted me. I told them I was honest with them. That's another thing I think you have to do. You have to be honest up front. I was honest with them. I said, hey, if there's a violation that I have to pursue, it will be done. I may be able to give you a break or a warning. I may not have to write you that ticket for that vehicle that is not registered, but just know that if you go out on the street, I have no control. But I can give you a week to go ahead and get that vehicle registered. That's fairness. That's understanding that people have problems themselves. They may not have the money to get that vehicle. That's what I went through. So sharing your own life experiences and others' life experiences with people and understanding that we all go through hard time. We're not all bad people. I called the police pigs at one time. I got called a pig. It's a give and take thing. When I was threatened from a gang unit out of another city, they wanted me out of the neighborhood and they threatened to kill me. My neighborhood stood up for me. They said, "Oh no, not our officer Pia. Oh no, you're not messing with her." That took trust. And that took working with the community, even though they didn't like that blue uniform, even though they didn't like the consequences sometimes they got, they knew I was for real. And that's what what has saved me. Trust in other people, talk to other people, keep your friends close to you, the ones who have experiences. Talk to them, they'll let you know. It's hard to talk about this stuff. I was hired 48 years ago. I'm just now starting to talk about a lot of the stuff that happened 48 years ago.
Wow. Well, we have all you guys were talking about Eugene Parks, you talked about Oscar Shade. I think about people like Kwame Salter with the school board, right? I think about people like Malele Shakata Anana. I think about people like Helen McLean and Jerry Bernard, first black teachers for the school district back in the day. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, right? If you could have a chat with a woman from history who is no longer with us, who would that be? And if I was privy to that conversation, what would I hear? Margarita?
Great question. I think one person that I go back, it's a family too, so I go back to my great-great-grandma. So a lot of people said that I looked like her, and that she was such a hard worker, dedicated to the family. So I think she will be one person that I would like to just sit at the table, have coffee, because she used to drink a lot of coffee, and just kind of have a conversation about, her times, like what happened, how was she able to, be with family, still have a job, and they had a farm, so I know they had to work really hard to sustain their family, their kids. So I think she will be one person that I would like to talk and just have a conversation, just from the conversation that I keep hearing within the family now, and they always say, oh, you just kind of sound like your grandma. You have this similar hair. You clean similar to her. I'm like, how do you even, those little details? So I think that's something that I would love to have a conversation with her.
Okay. And what about you, Francis?
I would like to have a conversation with Maya Angelou. Even though I had a conversation with her when she was alive, when I met her, she was just a down-to-earth person, warm, well-connected, had a lot of life experiences to share, and I would like to know, if I could talk to her, a little bit about her journey. How she moved from what her journey was like moving up into a national profile. The things she had done, the things she suffered, how did she overcome that, the people she met along the way. She met a lot of people, and she was able to just be a genuine, warm person. I saw her 20-some years ago when she was the keynote speaker for Temple Madison's 20th anniversary. And she was just very humble. But you knew that she was experienced, she was kind. And so I would want to know how she was able to keep that demeanor, during her career, because how people present on the outside publicly is a lot different than what they're going through personally, internally. And I would just like to have a conversation with her about that journey.
Gloria?
I think there's so many. I think, you mentioned Malele. Amani and I are good friends, her daughter. And so Amani's running for a city council race in District 12 on the east side of Madison. And we actually were up late last night in my kitchen table talking about the craziness of running a campaign and the politics. And I think we actually talked about Malele and her mom. And I think I would say you would hear a conversation around Malele's always being so firm with us. She was always really hard on me because she expected better. And you would hear a conversation that really would say, you needed to do this or you need to do that. Don't give up. I'm proud of you, but, she's kicking me at the same time, And, I think you would hear a conversation. If she was at that kitchen table with us last night, she would be saying, don't give up, and you should have done this, yes, but, get back up, and you got 4 days left.
Right.
And so you would hear a very heartwarming, warm conversation around just respect and being hard on us because she expects better and wants us to do better.
Okay. And Pia, who would you want to speak to?
Well, I think mainly it would be my mom. There are other women I would look up to as well, but my mom struggled a lot through her foster care and et cetera. She was also left-handed. And I don't know if you know, back in, the 50s, 60s, 70s, there were no left-handed tools to use. So she learned to do other things with her right hand. What she could use with her left, she did, but, she'd knit one way and bowl another way and iron another way, just trying to get through and assimilate into what the world was about around her. And she would say, don't give up, don't give up. I was supposed to be a nurse. My family primed me to be a nurse. And so I started taking nursing courses, and I applied with the, for those of you around will know, General Hospital had a nursing school right across the street. And so I applied there, and I was told because I was married I couldn't join them. And this is a women's organization, so I'm thinking, what more support can I get? But I had to live on campus, and because I was married, I couldn't do that. So then I applied at the time it was Madison Area Technical College. They had a nursing program for LPNs, and applied there, And basically, I was told by the female dean, well, we already got one of you. So, and those of you who are from Madison, Karen Dawson James was already a student there, so they weren't going to take me in. But my mom always said, don't give up, keep doing it, keep going, keep going. And so I think that's what we need, is to hear people say, whether it's your parent or someone else, don't give up. Try to do it. Work around the system, whatever it takes. Don't give up.
Okay. I'm going to read you, I think all four of you kind of touched on the importance of family. I'm going to read you a quote here and follow that by a question that I'd like. We're going to start with Frances on this one. So this quote is by Nancy Pelosi, actually. Women are leaders everywhere you look, from the CEO who runs a Fortune 500 company to the housewife who raises her children and heads her household. Our country was built by strong women, and we will continue to break down walls and defy stereotypes. And the question I pose to you, if I can find that, because my computer went off for just a second here, kind of pertains to how you balance, the work-life balance, and if in fact there really is a way to balance and to do it all, right? So we're going to start with Frances. How do you balance career? And I know you're retired now, but not really retired. So how do you balance career, personal life, and your passions, right? Because we all have passions. Is there such a thing as balance, really?
That's the new term, workload balance. That didn't exist when I was back there, started my career in '73. And first of all, I really did enjoy the quote that you read from Nancy Pelosi. Absolutely true, because women start in their homes and they transfer those skills into volunteering, careers, opportunities, just serving in the community. But we start at home, so I really did like that. In terms of workload balance, or is there a balance? I haven't really found that. I'm still struggling because my balance is not balance. I'm more heavy on the community side, just being active, and I realized that I had to, because of health issues, I've had to cut back in a couple of organizations that that I was very attached to and actively involved in. And even though I cut back, it still seems like I want to be out there, because it's just not me, a retiree sitting home in a rocking chair. That's just not my personality. Okay, people who know me, that is not my personality. But so it's hard to say about the workload balance. I listen to my daughter. I love to listen to younger folks and see how they navigate, which is quite different than me. And they know how to put their family first and their job second, maybe, and throw a little travel and vacation in there. They know how to do that. And they're the ones, not my daughter, but many of the young folks will do the 7:45 to 4:30 and the 9 to 5. That's it. And you're not going to get them to work unless they're being paid past that 8-hour, 7-hour shift. That's not how I grew up, and giving back is just something that was natural for me. And as I hear the stories here today, everyone else is like that, because we just want to make a difference. So I'm going to say I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer for balance. I've tried, and people have told me to do things differently, but that's very hard. So if anybody has any tips and any pointers they want to share with me as a senior citizen, how to retire gracefully and really retire, right, just let me know, please. I'd appreciate that.
Any of our other panelists want to take that? Has anybody figured out how to do it all?
I haven't.
Yeah, I think, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, hon. I think sharing with other people. I know I worked the night shift for many, many years because it was easier to get a babysitter at night than during the day. Also, provide my own self to babysit someone who needed something. Some of the mothers who didn't have childcare. My kids were growing up and becoming babysitters for those mothers. And those of you know Stephanie Bradley Wilson, my daughters babysat her oldest daughter. And we became friends, they became friends. Rosa Aguilu, who was another detective with the Madison Police Department, we helped with her kids, and vice versa. So asking people, for help, counting on others to help take care of you. I know as women, especially strong women, we do not like to ask for help, but sometimes you have to. One of my best friends, who's sitting here, and another friend, we grew up together, and when we were raising our kids together and it was hard times, especially after my divorce, we had potlucks. But what you got in the refrigerator tonight? Well, not much. Well, bring it over. Let's put it together. You can't be ashamed to ask because you're feeding your kids, you're feeding your family, you're feeding your heart, whatever it is. We have to reach out for other people. Are we all that? We are, but we struggle making it happen. Can we do everything? No. Can I change a tire? Yeah, because my daddy taught me. But there's other things I can't do. But you have to reach out and ask people to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Gloria, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, my dad used to tell me that, you're always going to have to sacrifice something, right? You want to do so much. There's always going to be a sacrifice in whatever you end up doing. And so I've always been accustomed to really figuring out what is that balance and what am I sacrificing for that. And then you have to find your own balance, right? Because it took me many years to realize what mine was, and mine was really making sure that my kids came first, and walking and sleeping. Like I have to have like 10 hours of sleep. And I know it's crazy,
Wow.
right? But
I had 0 last night. So.
but that's my balance, right? If I don't get my 10 hours of sleep, then I don't feel balanced. And so I do sleep a lot. I have to, I have to like sleep, and that is my balance. And so whatever that is, you have to find it, and that's going to keep you centered on what's important and understanding what sacrifices you will make. To do everything that you want to accomplish.
Good for you. So you're really intentional about getting those
Very
10 hours?
intentional.
Wow.
It doesn't always happen, and I'm not saying, I had 10 hours of sleep last night, but I really, really focus on my sleep.
Okay, I need to get some notes
But-
from you,
yeah.
because last night I had 0 hours, so I was up all night.
If I can add two things.
go ahead.
I think, I do get the feeling that we're so committed to the community, to our families, but sometimes it's okay to just say no. And you don't have to give an answer why,
Yeah.
because I'm the type of person that I will say no, and then I'll have to give an explanation of
Right.
why am I saying no.
Yes.
So don't feel guilty. It is okay to say no when you're overcommitted. It's better to be honest and just say, at this time I'm not able to do it. Although we want to be everywhere, I'm one of those. I want to be everywhere. I want to support everyone, but sometimes it's just okay to say no. And then my other thing is at times we need to take a break, because and I noticed this. I just had this conversation with my mom. She didn't want to take a vacation with my sister, and then she got sick. So she had, they had to close their business, and I said, Mom, now you have the time, but before you didn't have the time, so you had to make the time. So it's just, think about your health and the position where you are, and just, sometimes we had to make the time to be with families, or just to step out of work for a date and just do nothing, or just focus on yourself if we do have that opportunity.
And you're so right. Health is very important, both physical and mental health, right? And to that end, how do you, or what does self-care mean to you? Francis, are you good at self-care?
Not really. Not really.
What would it look like to you?
Self-care would look like for me to be in the gym, to travel, to relax. There's some traveling buddies out here in the audience with me. I would like to do more of that and spending time with my grandchildren. That would be more self-care for me because I've been so involved in the community. I really do need to focus,
Right.
On me. And I'm trying to say no, but that hasn't worked well. But I'm getting better at saying no. I will not take on something just because people want me to, but even then, I looked at the event I had here in Fitchburg on March 8th, and they put together things I was actively involved in now, and there were 10 organizations. 10, now that's too many. I'm supposed to be saying no, I'm trying to step back. Some more I was more involved in some than others, because some require more. I just need to get better, and I know what I need to do. I just don't always do it.
That's me.
Let me just say it that way. I know what I need to do, but I just don't always do it. So if you can help me, I'm asking you all to communicate. So what can I say?
Well, Pia, I know you do Get Moving exercise program a couple times a week. Is that self-care for you? And what else do you do for self-care?
Well, it is, and prior to that, I danced as much as I could. I'm not a good dancer, but I know it was movement, and it felt good, gave me life. I mentioned earlier there were some things that went on at the police department I couldn't talk about. It might have been a rough day. I spent 13 years as a crime scene investigator, and there were horrifying scenes that I saw. So to get rid of that, I would jump on my motorcycles in the warm weather, and I would just ride. Had no destination, just ride, clear my mind. I really enjoy gardening and sewing, so I love the fresh air. I love camping, so those are my getaways.
Nice, nice. Another quote for you, this one by Ava DuVernay, filmmaker, if you're not aware or familiar with her name. Ignore the glass ceiling and just do the work. If you're focusing on the glass ceiling, focusing on what you don't have, focusing on the limitations, then you will be limited.
That's right.
Right?
You will be. You will be.
As a student, seeing an F on a paper is not a good thing, right? Thank goodness I never saw one. But failure is inevitable. In fact, some may argue that it is necessary, perhaps even an essential prerequisite for success. When you think about your past failures, what comes to mind? We don't always like to think about what we failed at. We think about our achievements and accomplishments, right? But we all have some failures. What comes to mind? What did you learn from it? How did you grow from it? How did you become more resilient, perhaps, as a result of it? Tell us about what you perceive as your biggest failure. Gloria.
I've had many failures. And you're right. I mean, it's like, really lived through those, and every failure was a learning moment of growth. And I think that what I learned from that is that, some people look at failure and then they just give up, right? And what I tell young people all the time, that it's not, right? It is an opportunity for growth. Like, you're just moving on. It's preparing you for the next. And so that's so important for our young people to understand. And I've seen talented people who have failed and just given up. And so I think I can't think of just one failure that has occurred in my life, but I think every failure that I've had from beginning elementary school to middle school to high school. I have seen the Fs, by the way, but it really forced me to work harder and be better. And so I didn't want that F on my paper, so I just went back and studied harder. And so it does take some resiliency and ambition and courage to accept the failure for what it is and learn from it and move on. And so every failure is different for everybody, right? Because it's it's taken you in a different direction, and that's a special moment for you to reflect on. And so, yeah, I would say I wish I could think of a big failure as of today, because there's so many big ones, but a particular one I can't think of. So.
Margarita, what about you?
Yeah, so I go back to, at one point in my life, I thought that moving to the U.S. was a failure. And why do I think, when I was 14, the school system back home in Mexico was really bad. So my parents, and some people think that my parents got divorced, so that's why I came to the U.S. But they were together. They had their own business in Mexico. I'm the youngest of 4, had everything in Mexico. My parents, I was very spoiled. And but my parents really wanted me to have a better education. And they decided to ask me if I wanted to move to Madison with my brother. We're 11 years apart. He wasn't married at that time. And so I say, I was still young, and I was, I want to move to the U.S. And I had already come to the U.S. I came to his graduation. We have family all over the U.S. So it was not my first time, but it was definitely the first time to come and live in the U.S. So I came here. My mom came here for a couple months. But then it was the time that she had to go back. I literally cried for about a month, and my brother will stay with me, and he would try to help me and be there as support. But one day he got super tired, and he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna buy you a ticket so you can go back to our parents." And to me, after going to school, trying to learn English and struggling for about a month, I thought, I'm like, what am I gonna do if I go back? So I said, you know what, I'm just not going to cry anymore. I am fine, and I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to be okay. So, for a long time, I thought that coming here was, I was not going to be successful, that I was not going to be able to thrive, that I was not going to be able to learn the language. And here I am. Now I have lived most of my time in the U.S. than in Mexico. But I'm still very related to my culture, to my family and my language, my heritage back home. But yeah, I think, it's, I go back and I think like, wow, how do my brother and I, we even had conversations. Like, he used to attend my conferences at school. So he definitely was like my mom and dad in the U.S. here. And kudos to him, because it was not easy. So, definitely, I don't think it was a failure now, but back then I didn't think I was going to be able to move forward.
Well, there's a quote that just reminded me of Carly Simon. I don't know if people remember Carly Simon from back in the day. She says, "A really strong woman accepts the war she went through and is ennobled by her scars." So all of that kind of culminates into the person that you are today. So I think we all have to go through the ups and downs and the challenges and the disappointments, and I think it's a part of our journey, right? Right. So let's do a fun question. Ready? Think about this. If you were to choose one song that would play whenever you walked into the room, what would it be and why? And why I ask you this is because we all know a singer by the name of Beyonce, right? And Beyonce says something about confidence. Beyonce says the most alluring thing a woman can have is confidence. So what gives you confidence? If there was a song just blaring through the speakers as you are walking in the room, strutting your stuff, what song would it be for you, Pia?
Brick House.
Brick house.
I'm a brick house. Okay, good one. All right, and why? Why?
Well, it's confidence. It's, someone says to you, she's a brick house, she's built on a firm foundation, and she likes to have fun.
Yes.
Okay. Gloria, what song would it be for you?
I would have to say I've done a few keynote presentations, and what I do at the beginning is have all the women stand up and dance with me to Badass Woman.
Good one, good one. Francis?
There is not one that's coming to mind for me, because the songs I like pretty much are the line dance songs.
Okay.
So if there's any line dance songs that play, I want to be up on the dance floor.
Okay.
That's what's going to say. I like them all, okay?
All right. Margarita, what about you?
You know, I think the first one that it comes to me is the same as Gloria, Badass Woman as well. I do have several in Spanish, and even that I just, you know, in the mornings when it's hard to get up sometimes. Like, I just play music, and I'm up and showering, ready to go.
Okay. All right, so Pia, autobiography written about Pia Kinney-James. What would the title be? And read me a few sentences from it.
Wow.
It's interesting that this is called Her Story because I have started a book called Her Story, Being Black While Wearing Blue.
I love it.
And it just talk about the pros and cons of my career. Miss Mullally asked me a long time ago, when are you going to write that book? And I said, are you talking about a set of encyclopedias? Because I have so much to say, I don't know where to start. As I said, I'm a mother, and that was my main goal, is take care of my children, especially as a divorcee. I fought to stay on the police department and work with people who didn't like me as well as those who did. I tried to, my goal was to learn as much about the police department as I could because I wanted to be a supervisor. So I did everything I could: foot patrol, bike patrol, walking patrol, vice narcotics, schools, safety education, DARE, and then finally crime scene investigator, which, by the way, my nursing experience really helped there. And so, and then the part of my family and having fun is having fun and looking into other areas other than the police department to let go and have fun.
Okay. What would the title of your book be, Gloria?
I don't know. That's tough. You know, I've thought about writing a book at some point in time in my life, but you know, I would have to say like something like, you know, they thought she couldn't, but she did. Just because my entire life has been sort of people around saying she can't, or her, why, you know, why her, or but always overcame. And so I think that's would be what the few sentences would be, is she overcame despite the obstacles and those who thought she couldn't.
Francis?
I hadn't thought about it, but if I had a book out, it would probably be, with my personality, we don't have to ask her what she thinks. Because, you know, through my life, you know, that's what people say, you know, we don't have to ask her what she thinks. She'll tell you anyway. So that would be pretty much.
Okay. Margarita?
Yeah, I think mine will be, the title will be Break the Rules.
Okay.
Or something about Latina, breaking the rules. So then that will, right? I think I had, through my journey in many spaces where I have been the only one, so I have been able to break the system and being able to open the doors and be the only one at the table, the only Latina, the only woman. So we'll focus on being the only one and still being able to thrive and be successful.
Okay. That leads me to a couple of quotes. So one by Condoleezza Rice. She says that I think the truth of the matter is people who end up as first don't actually set out to be the first, right?
Right.
That they set out to do something they love. And it just so happens that they are the first to do it. And there's also another quote that says, you're going to walk into many, many rooms where you may be the only one who looks like you or who has had the experiences you've had. So use that voice and be strong. That is a quote by our Vice President, Kamala Harris.
All right.
Yes.
So tell me your best friend's name. What would your best friend say about you? What is one of the most interesting things about you that we will not learn by reading your resume, your bio, or that book you were talking about? Let's go with Francis.
Oh, God.
What's your best friend's name?
I have so many, so
Okay.
let's...
You're going to get in trouble now.
I know, you can't just name one. Okay.
Okay. I'm not going to name a friend. I'm going to name a group.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say Alpha Kappa Alpha
Gotcha.
Sorority Incorporated, because I've been a member of that organization for 52 years. Yes. So that's a long time. So they all know me. You hear from them. And what was the other part of that question?
And so what would they say if I asked the AKAs, what do you think about Francis? What can you tell me about Francis? So I'm looking for one of the most interesting things about you that
People don't
the
know.
audience is not going to learn by reading that bio. They're not going to learn by looking at your resume or even that book that you were talking about. Something
wow.
interesting about you that most people don't know.
Well, some of them would know, even though I talked about my family and background, some of them would know I have a twin. Okay.
I did not know that, so there you go.
Okay, and I have to point out Corinda here. If I go on Facebook, whatever this app is, social media app, okay, if I go on Facebook and it says a year ago what your memories are, and it pulls up pictures of you, I don't come up on mine oftentimes. My twin sister never comes up, but Corinda will come up. Now,
Well, Corinda comes up on everybody's page. Let's just say that, yeah.
I get bumped off my own Facebook page, not with a relative, but with Corinda now. And that's a true story, you all. I'm not making that up. That's really a true story. But I would say I'm an open book, so there's very little that most people don't know about me, because I will tell you whether you asked or not. Okay.
So what's one of your pet peeves then? One of your pet peeves?
My pet peeve is basically I like people to be straight
Gotcha.
with me, whether I want to hear it or not. That's the only way I'm going to improve myself. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. So that's the biggest thing. I don't like people to say, "Oh, good job," and all that. And really, you're saying, "Boy, you could have done better." So you yourself know how well you present and what you do, and when you're doing good and when you're not. And so I always think that my grandchildren can tell me, "Mommy, Grandma, that was good. You did a good job." But I like my friends to be honest. And whether I say friends or professionals, I like people to be straight with me, and it doesn't hurt my feelings like some people say. If you don't say nice things, people's feelings are going to be hurt. I think that's the way we improve ourselves and we grow and get better, by listening to other people's viewpoints of what you're doing, what you could do, and what you should be doing better. And yes, I'll take the compliments, that's fine, but I also want to continue to improve my life every day, and that's one of the reasons why I really probably enjoy most working with the young folks, because the young folks will tell you. Our age group may not, okay, but they'll tell you they'll be just as straight, and I really do appreciate that.
Gloria, what's something that few people know about you except maybe your close friends?
Well, I think my close friends would say, and I already mentioned my sleeping habits. So they would probably say, if she's not answering the phone, she's probably sleeping. I think and another pet peeve is I hate it when people are late. So that when my friends tell me to be somewhere, I'm there on time. But they're never there on time, and so so I'm oftentimes the first one at the restaurant, alone, sitting there. So yes.
Okay. Going to go on to the next question here. Tell me, Pia, what does it mean for a woman of color to be at the table, and how important is that?
Well, I think just sitting at the table visually, you know, and they know you're there. Gloria mentioned about what the professors were saying about you've got to be different. You can't do what they do. If they're in the wrong, you can't do it because they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think being at the table means the same thing. You're there, you're helping, you're reaching out for not only help yourself, but to give help. You're there, you're present, and you're visible to all your offsprings, all those that you mentor. You're there.
Okay. Margarita?
Yeah, I think, being at the table, to me, is powerful because now you might be the only one that has the voice to talk behind, right, to represent your community. But at the same time, being at the table, it gives you the opportunity to advocate for your community. So now you have the voice, you have the power, and you can bring others along the way to the table with you. So just, I think Gloria mentioned remember who you are and where you came from, especially when you are at the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me, what, you've talked about your work, you've talked about your family, you've talked to some degree about your passions. To what degree is faith important to you, whether it is religion or, as I would like to call it, relationship? Mm-hmm. What sense of purpose guides your life right now? Let's go with Pia.
Well, I definitely believe in the higher being and power that I don't control. I also trust my gut feelings. If something doesn't feel right, it usually means it isn't right. You may not know what it is, but it means be cautious. That's the main thing right now.
Okay.
Those two things.
Gloria?
Yeah, it definitely drives everything that I do. I mean, I pray several times a day, depending on what's happening. And really God leads me and has guided me throughout my time here in life. There's no way that I would be here today sitting in front of you with all the barriers and obstacles that I have faced in my life, that I would be sitting here right now if it were not for God guiding me and my family.
And I'm going to have you answer that too. We'll go first with Francis and then Margarita. And to add to that, what brings you joy? What makes you smile?
For me, I'm in support of what both Pia and Gloria says. And my background strongly was I was raised in a family where, you were expected to go to church. As a matter of fact, I sort of joke when I moved here to Wisconsin, when I was looking for my real black church. I was thinking about, because I grew up in Elizabethtown, North Carolina, but I also lived in New York City. And one of the churches I worked in New York actually worked in a church. The membership was 6,000 black folks, and then I had this relationship with our pastor there about going to church on Sundays and stuff, because I would type a sermon for him on Friday. And Sunday comes around, he said, were you at church on Sunday? Well, Reverend McMurray, I just typed your sermon. I know what you're going to say. But anyway, my family, that was the background. And not only was it church that was important to you, but they're the ones who raised you. They're the ones who are in the community. They're the ones who, you only had your parents and family to raise you, but you also had the church. You had the community. And in the South, that was expected. You move here, it was a different experience for me, and I didn't really see all that support. Of course, we got Mount Zion at the time when I was there, when my kids came through there, but for the most part, it's not the same these days as it was when I was growing up, and I don't understand it, but that's been there for me, and it's kept me grounded. I don't believe you have to be in church every day, every Sunday. When I say every day, every Sunday, but I believe you should live your life as if you were, and if you were, taken away today, that you have done the best and you've treated people respectfully as well. So and then what brings me joy, people bring me joy, just doing things and having fun, that brings me joy. So I enjoy my life. I just have to say that I really have enjoyed my life. So,
Margarita?
Yeah, very similar as well. I think, what keeps me grounded is definitely my mom. She would always, and even up to now, she would always say, "Do you go to church on Sunday?" And she lives in Mexico. So it's, definitely I grew up going to church every Sunday, and I think there are times in life where I put other things first, and then like work or just personal things, and then I definitely go back and who's the priority here? So definitely, my parents have, growing up, they put that in me, so it's still in me. So I'm very religious, and I definitely believe in the power of God, and it brings me joy to go to church and see the community there as well. And even when I'm not able to go, just to say a prayer and be with God. And what brings me joy as well is to see positive outcomes in the community. The work that I do when I support my participants, when they're able to get ahead, when they're able to finish the trainings, when they come to me and they say, "Hey, Margarita, I thank you for helping me apply for the job. Now I get paid $20 more. And now instead of having 2 jobs, I only have 1 full-time job, and I have time to be with my family." That brings me joy.
So this is kind of going to piggyback on that. So we all do things not really for the accolades, right? Not really for the awards.
Right.
It's nice to be recognized. But what is the one thing that gives you the greatest feeling of success? Pia?
Well, basically, when someone comes up and says, as was pointed out earlier, when someone says, "You helped me with this," or "You helped me with that," I don't always know that I'm helping someone at the time. So when someone says something, I almost find it shocking. Like, "Oh, I did that? Okay." It's a joy to realize that as much as I run my mouth, sometimes it really helps somebody.
And you, Gloria?
Yeah, I would say that very same thing. I mean, I think, hearing from those personal stories of people that I helped along the way. And, I just got a letter from a homeless guy that I helped when I was deputy mayor. He was sleeping in front of Emilio's downtown Madison. And so I just simply, asked him to come to, Mayor Soglin asked him to come to the mayor's office, and we were sitting there talking, and I connected him with services, and which it was really hard for even me to, as deputy mayor, to contact and get services for him. But years, later, now he's living in a different city, and just sent me a thank you saying, John, because you got in the P.O. box. Just thanking me and Soglin for taking the time, because he's no longer homeless and he's found sustainable housing, and so it's those types of stories that I have received my entire career as a law enforcement officer, on the school board, as deputy mayor. My entire career in public service is really impacting individual lives, and so that's what gives me the motivation, and really just makes me think like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and so in these positions. So yeah.
Well, research would indicate that successful people are often risk takers. What is the biggest risk you took, or what is one of the biggest risks you took? And tell us how that thought process went and why you ultimately decided to take it. Francis?
That's a pretty easy one for me. The biggest risk I took was moving to Wisconsin. Okay. So if you were born, I was born in New York City, grew up in North Carolina, and went to school in North Carolina, and then I came to this place, Wisconsin. Where the heck is Wisconsin? A. B, it wasn't Milwaukee. It wasn't a place where a large black population was, or is. And so I got that kind of pushback all the time. Why there? But I think, that was a risk, because as I think about the event that they had here for me in Fitchburg on March 8th, and the people that came and spoke, or the people that came and supported me, the relationships that I have made through the years. When I came to Wisconsin, I didn't know anybody but me.
Wow.
One person, me. And one of the persons that spoke was a longtime friend, Hamdi Avila. He's a Fitchburg judge, for those who don't know. But he, we go way back, and he can remember things that I can't remember, of things we've done together and how we've made a difference. But taking that risk, to come here and to meet, from be good friends with Hamdi, or our governor and our immediate past governor that I worked for, Governor Doyle. Just what black woman comes to a place and actually knows, not just knows them because you campaigned for them, but actually worked with them, had relationships with them. They don't have to pull out a book to say, no, or talk to the aide. Who is she? So when you really think about it, someone like me who came from nowhere, so to speak, a small place, to me it was important, but to many it wasn't. And to come here to Wisconsin and to have been able to meet so many amazing folks in this community inspired me. And what people don't realize is the reason why I continue to be so active, I believe, this is my thought process, is that when I got elected mayor, people believed in me. They didn't know me, but they believed in me. I always talk about Ed Murray. I see him sitting here, but I always talk about Ed, because Ed also was a younger person when I ran, and I only met him because I ran as mayor. And I saw he was the only other black person in this room when I was at a forum, a debate. And I'm thinking now, is he for me or is he against me? Because we already had that conversation. Not everybody that looks like us is for you. And Ed came up afterwards and definitely, has been my friend, supporter ever since, even though they were trying to get him to run against me back in the day. So, it's just, to me, it's very special that I was able to move to a place, not knowing someone, to do all these things, and people giving the opportunity to me, but also believe that because they believed in me, I wanted to give back to the community. That's one of the reasons why I feel that I'm involved in so many things, but I won't take on more than I feel that I can contribute. I just don't want to be at the table. I want to have a voice. I want change. I want some action. So
It's more than just being at the
yes,
table.
more than just being at the table.
And you want to bring, it sounds like you always bring your authentic self,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I
which,
try
which,
to.
which can be difficult for folks,
Yeah,
right? For
yeah.
women, right?
Yes, thank you.
So what institutional and or societal changes need to be made for women to be empowered? And then how do you empower those women around you and the women in the audience? Margarita?
Yeah, I think, there are many different ways, but I think what has to be changed in the system, I go back to especially coming as a Latina, trying to learn the systems in the U.S., and when we even talk about the educational systems, the health systems, even to navigate schools, to me, it was not easy. So I always, and I wish one day we'll have like this package, right, or those videos or training that everyone that will move to the U.S., they will get to see all these trainings, and they will get to learn, and so that they can learn about everything that is in the U.S. Like, and I'm talking about like the school system and like the health systems, insurance and all that we don't have any of those things back home. So we have to learn those systems here. So it's definitely not easy, but I think, just if you are in the place that you can empower and support other women, just have a conversation. Share resources, connect. I love to connect people in the community. I'm a connector. So if I meet someone and I think that, you should meet this person, I connect those two because a lot of people has done that for me. Even mentors. That relationship can become a mentor, a coach, or a sponsor. Where I think those are, to me, mentor, coach, and sponsors are great things that can definitely help and support someone to move forward and be successful, either in the workplace or personal life or with family.
I'm going to do just a quick round of questions. It is 3 o'clock. We want to give ample time for the audience to ask questions. But real quick, Pia, what advice, in just a sentence or two, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
You want me to go way back there?
I do.
I think the same thing that I did at that time. Just keep pushing. Do it.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's go with Gloria. What's more important, or is one more important than the other? Being a mentor or having a mentor?
I would say being a mentor is the most important.
And why?
I think that being able to guide and mentor a next generation is most sustainable and will continue through generations. And so I think being a mentor is important in that it will stick.
Gotcha.
And it will continue.
Okay. Francis, tell me what kind of ice cream describes your personality?
Chocolate.
Okay, all right. Okay, sounds good. And Margarita, if you had the chance to have a do-over, if there's a specific experience where you wish that you would have kind of done something a little bit differently and you were able to do it over again at some point in your life, what would that have been?
Great question. I think the only thing that I would at this time I would regret is not going to school right away to get my master's, and that's something that I do want to accomplish before I turn 40. So I have 7 more years to go. So I did finish my bachelor's, but then I went right away back to work, and it's been hard to now go back to school. But that's one of my goals that I have. So that's something that I do regret. But at the same time, I didn't have no one,
Right.
To my family, it was okay, you're done, you're good. But to me, like, I still need more.
Okay. 1 or 2 sentences. Pia, any fear along the way along your journey? Any fear?
Oh, most definitely. Law enforcement is fearful all the time.
Gloria, pumps or tennis shoes?
Tennis
What are
shoes.
we more likely to find you in? Tennis shoes?
Tennis shoes.
Oh, wow.
Francis.
Uh-oh.
I know, you're like, uh-oh. Let's see here. You've answered a lot of this stuff. What is your proudest moment?
Ooh. My proudest moment does it have to be one moment?
Yeah, just give me one. Give me one of the many.
Okay, my proudest moment was to have grandchildren.
Okay. Okay, good. And one more question with Margarita. Let's see here. Give me 3 famous people who you would invite to your dinner party.
Oh.
Barack Obama.
Okay.
Michelle Obama. I think the other one that I've been thinking too is Martin Luther King.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, very nice. Okay. Well, we're going to open up, I think there's a mic there. Is the mic there? Oh, okay. Here.
You did good.
Okay, so we're going to bring the mic around, and if anyone has any questions, if I could ask you to kind of go up and stand in a line, and we'll just take one question at a time. Anybody have any questions? Surely there must be questions.
No questions, but Francis, what I'm going to do is give you your song that you couldn't think of.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay. What you got for
I'm
me?
giving you 3.
Okay.
One is I Am Woman,
Okay.
from When You Began.
Yes.
When you got in the middle, you said, I'm every woman.
Okay.
And now that you're older, you say, I'm just fine.
Okay.
All right?
Just fine.
And Fiona can sing each and every one of those.
Anybody else have a question? Oh, I thought she was coming to ask a question. Anyone else? Front row, anybody have a question? Well, in the meantime, I'll ask another question. You know, I read an article the other day that said that there was not a single woman who has not experienced some form of sexual harassment or inappropriate behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
And if
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
comfortable doing so, please explain. Francis, I see you shaking your head. Do you think that's a true statement?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. And that's a tough one. That's a tough
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I'll just say that's a tough one.
Everybody else kind of agree with that statement that we've all experienced some
Yes.
type of inappropriate behavior or sexual harassment? Okay, there's a question here. Go ahead.
With all due respect and honor for all of you for bringing forth your stories.
All right, Mr. Jones.
I love you for it. But I want to direct this question to Pia. Given that the time that you
Talk into
engaged
the mic a little bit more.
in law enforcement, it was a male-dominated profession. What motivated you to do that?
I have to say, at the time, it was taking care of my family, trying to help my community. It was a good paying job with benefits that I needed for my family. And determination. They always said I couldn't and shouldn't, and I said, I think I can.
Okay.
What has been the most significant barrier in your career? Margarita.
There were several, but I think one that, I go back to the time that I've moved here, and although I had already been here, I think learning the language was really tough, especially because I have a very tough brother that he would, there were ESL classes, I remember when I joined high school, but then he wanted me to take like regular classes, 2 math classes per semester. So I always had lots of homework, lots of things to write, lots of essays to write. So I hated it. I hated, at that time I'm like, when am I gonna be able to have a conversation with someone in English? So it wasn't easy, but it was possible. I'm still learning, by the way, so always learning.
Are there any other questions? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Gloria, I really am excited to hear you speak today, and my question is, what made you decide to run for mayor?
Thank you. As a daughter of migrant farm workers, they traveled across the country. And so my siblings are born in different states. And it was hard work. It was generational work. And 3rd grade education, my parents came to Madison during the Cesar Chavez movement when they were fighting for better wages and living conditions for families across the country, and Wisconsin being one of them. They protested from Watoma, Wisconsin, where I was born, to Madison, the state capital, and they walked up State Street. They, walked up Bascom Hill, and immediately my dad was just like, poverty is going to be our way out of. Education was going to be our way out of poverty, and it was. And so, out of all the cities that we were in, Madison was the city that allowed the opportunity for my family to thrive. So I've committed myself really intentionally to give back to a community that never gave up on me and my family. And, I'm so committed to this community and its success. And I feel like every point in my career, Madison, residents of Madison, people who I was connected to really prepared me for that, right? Prepared me to be a law enforcement officer, prepared me to run a school board race and win, and to serve at the most tumultuous times, right, through the pandemic. So a lot of things have happened in my career where Madison really opened up those doors. And I feel like an obligation to really give back now, given all the experience that I have to lead Madison during a very critical time to move us forward. And so it's being a public servant. And I love Madison. I care about the residents of Madison. And that's why I stepped in. And I left a really good job. The CEO of Briar Patch Youth Services, an amazing job to do this. And so I do this for multiple reasons. I think God really guided me into this decision. And there was something bigger that he wanted me to do. And I think whether it's this or not, I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, it's the risk that we take all the time. And that's what I did. And I think Madison deserves better, and that's why I've stepped in the race.
I do have one more question. Why is it important for women to share their stories? Why was it important for you to share yours today?
I think it's people need to understand. I think young women need to understand that it's not easy. It wasn't easy, and so when they're experiencing those challenges and barriers, that they can go back to what Pia is talking about, and Frances Huntley Cooper, Margarita, and myself about these strong women, right? They went through it too, so I can go through it. And so important, and we don't hear those stories a lot. I think women are not typically wanting to talk about the challenges that they face to get to where they are. And so it's important for our young girls to see it, that we overcame it and we did it, and they can too.
I would also add that it's nice for us to tell our stories so that we can learn from each other as well. How we navigated through the systems, it has not been easy. The barriers, the obstacles we've had to face, but just knowing that, Gloria did it, Margarita did it, Pia did it, you did it, Deana. A lot of women in this room. So it's nice that we talk about it because we learn from each other. That's the most important thing. I didn't have a mentor or coach when I was growing up. And the biggest group of women right now, even at 71 and being involved in things, I still have a core group of people that I consult with. It's not all about me. I want to make sure that I'm listening and people will guide me that way. And so I think it's important that we share, we learn, we grow, because none of us grew up with having that kind of person available to us. Yeah. At least not my age group. The younger folks may have by now.
Okay, a little less serious. What's the best book you've read or the best TV show you've been binging on? Although, Gloria, you probably don't have too much time for that right now during your campaigning. Or the best podcasts. Share with us so that we can kind of check it out too. Margarita?
Yeah, I have a book. The book is called I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. Nice. It's by Erica Sanchez. I think they're recording now a series on Netflix, so it should become on Netflix pretty soon. Oh, wow. But I can relate a lot to this book because in the stories, because in many ways I had to leave both worlds. And my mom, both of my parents can only assimilate to their world, to their Mexican culture or Latino culture. But then I live and work in the U.S., right? So my parents are not fluent in English. So there are many things that, to my parents, our culture is you don't get married, you don't leave the house until you get married. So I cannot be independent, and I have been so independent since I moved to the U.S. So for them, it's very hard to understand a lot of the culture here. I can relate. I really love the book, and now I have my nephew and my niece reading the book too. So because it's a really good book, so I do recommend it.
Nice. Okay. Any TV shows? Any podcast? Francis, what are you watching on TV?
Okay, I hate to say this with Theola in the audience, and Theola knows exactly what I'm going to say, but I'm a big fan of Tyler Perry. Okay, all of you, he's just, Theola, I hear you there, but I watch not all of his programs, but I like a lot of them. The ones I'm binging on right now was The Oval.
Oh, yeah.
Those kind of ones, because what I do during the day, I'm working. I don't turn the television on. I don't have music on during the day. I'm focused on whatever volunteering.
Okay.
So I'll just go back maybe late at night before I fall asleep. I might watch a,
Okay.
Tyler
You mean
Perry.
nobody's watching Love is Blind or 90 Day Fiance?
I
except
don't
me?
know that one.
Oh. Margarita? Okay, yeah.
That's the younger
New
generation.
season just started. Yeah, really nice. Okay, we have a question from the audience.
Many of you talked about keeping on pushing forward, keeping on trying. Have you had experiences where you've realized that maybe the way in which you're pushing forward isn't working, maybe for you? And I ask this from the perspective of, I used to work in IT, and I realized after 8 years that there really was not a fit in IT for someone who was basically a social activist at heart and not interested in keeping on going with sexism and racism. So, and the HR departments were all, super unuseful. So, at what point do you realize that you need to, push in a different direction, maybe?
Yeah, I can answer that. I've made multiple changes in careers. I think it started at when I started at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I entered in the School of Education. I thought I was going to, be a teacher, and then I immediately changed direction because I was not passionate about it. I always wanted to become a law enforcement officer, but people told me over and over again that was not possible for me, and so. So I switched. I was switched to the College of Letters and Science, Behavioral Science and Law and Criminal Justice, and that really was my passion. And so I think, and for my transition from law enforcement to deputy mayor for the city, I felt that making that decision again was a big risk because I had spent so much time and years with the Madison Police Department, but I knew that in the mayor's office, I would have the ability to make more of an impact within the criminal justice system and within law enforcement as the deputy mayor overseeing that area. And so I think that it's really important as a young person to pivot and pivot as soon as you feel it. Don't waste your time on something that is not working for you and you're not passionate about. And so it is so important to trust that instinct and move. You'll live a better life, you'll be happier, and you're not going to regret it years later, right? You don't want to regret a decision that you didn't make or opportunity you gave up because you're comfortable where you're at, or that's just the direction that somebody has told you to take. And so take those risks. And push forward on something that you're passionate about, and so you'll be better off. And so do that now. You're young, and you don't want to have to look back and that time was wasted.
Okay, well, that will wrap up our questioning. Thank you so much. Oh, is there one more? Okay,
Just
real quick.
less of a question and more of an appreciation comment. As a daughter of Madison, so born and raised, right? I grew up with the stories of Pia and Francis and the things that you all have done and the ceilings that you all have broken. More recently, getting to know and watch Gloria's trajectory and Margarita's as well. So what I wanted to do was just to say thank you for breaking ceilings. We stand on your shoulders, and I want you all to know that the things that you've done, the sacrifices you've made weren't in vain, and we're learning from you all. So
sweet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again to Pia Kinney-James and Gloria Reyes. Francis Huntley Cooper, and Margarita Avila. I'd also like to thank everyone. Thank yourselves. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for coming out today. You could have been doing a lot of things, so thank you for coming. I also want you to acknowledge our planning team. I mentioned before Janice Hughes, longtime Fitchburg resident, community leader. Stand up, please. Jeanette Arthur, who is my assistant at Newbridge. She is the Diversity and Inclusion Programming Assistant. Jill McCone, as many of you know, is the director here at the Newbridge Senior Center. And again, I'm Deana Wright. I am from Newbridge, Madison. I am the Diversity and Inclusion Manager. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming. There's plenty of food left. Please go back, help yourself to sandwiches and veggie cups and cupcakes and candy and everything that's back there. Thank you again for coming out.
Okay, gotcha, all right.